250 miles northeast of Aberdeen. It's back! Scimitar 2, engaging!
From the beginnings of British science fiction, we have faced the threat of alien invasion. An invasion is one of our greatest fears. This week on SF UK, alien invasion. They're coming from outer space with their death rays, but all we have to repel them is our meagre machine guns and the measly resources of the RAF. Coming up, the British heroes who have grappled with space invaders. The Biggles in Space character of Dan Dare. C-3PO, the gilded butler from Star Wars.
Where are you going? Well, what makes you think there are settlements over there?
And the outright bastard of Blake 7, Avon.
Am I allowed to use a rude word? An absolute bastard.
I know the aliens are coming. They may want to kill us. They may want to make friends with us. Or they might just want to steal our women. Whatever their purpose, the UN is totally unprepared for their arrival. They have no plan. Fortunately, British science fiction tells us exactly what will happen in the event of alien invasion. Invasion Earth was the most ambitious British science fiction TV show of the 90s. It's set in the Highlands of Scotland, which act as our very own Roswell.
We thought it would be a good idea to set the events in the remote Highlands of Scotland rather than, as normally happens in science fiction, in the sort of desert areas of the southwestern United States. That for some reason the aliens have gone off track so that the Brits get involved rather than the Americans.
Invasion Earth is a blow-by-blow account of the arrival of aliens, even accurately capturing the difficulties of getting reception on your mobile in the mountains. It's a modern British story of invasion. We are no longer a superpower, we're just bystanders in an intergalactic war. And our survival might require us to sacrifice our humanity, a typically dark and pessimistic view.
In a lot of science fiction, the aliens take issue with human beings for reasons that don't actually make that much sense. If we're just one small planet in the cosmos, why would anyone be that interested in us? And one thing we did in Invasion Earth was have a conflict going on a cosmic scale.
Unable to identify.
We were actually, as the story begins, caught in the crossfire between a set of aliens who are trying to resist an invading force and a set of aliens who are sweeping through the galaxy.
Shaking it. Contact in our 6 o'clock. Range half a mile.
When the flying saucers arrive, there will be chaos. Fortunately, I've drawn up a list of 5 things I know will definitely happen. Our first warning of alien invasion will come not from a military listening post, but from the plucky efforts of an amateur who will intercept and decode the alien transmission.
So what have you got?
One of the satellites picked up something really weird.
In a 1 in a million chance, a hacker discovers the extraterrestrial communication.
Chance in a million that a satellite just accidentally flies through it.
And to think, he was only looking for Captain Kirk-related pornography.
No one else have this right now.
No one but us.
There will be an army general who thinks the aliens can be defeated with guns and missiles. I think not.
Open fire!
So who are these aliens? Science fiction has given me plenty of ideas of what they'll be like when they finally arrive. The aliens might be friendly, like the doll-like grey aliens at the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or even E.T. Or the aliens might be slavering death machines with nothing on their minds but murder. One of Britain's most famous aliens, the Mekon, was an evil genius and enemy of Dan Dare. His species, the Treen, owe something to our post-war hatred of the Japanese. To find out more about the Mekon, I went to meet comics connoisseurs, the Montgolfier Society.
Sure, you're right. The feeling that it could happen. If Dan is the RAF pilot, then is the Mekon Emperor Hirohito, essentially.
Yeah, even the name,
Japanese, not Chinese.
Even the name Mekon sounds like
Mekong Delta.
I mean,
He lives on a planet that's divided by a flame belt, and the Korean War was just going at the time with the communists in the north.
They were very
and,
frightened of the yellow skin.
Yeah.
The debate rages on.
And there you are.
Falling firmly in the camp of murderous aliens is this alien from the film Alien.
The alien is a really scary mother. It's got this willy thing on the back of its head and this sort of slobbery vagina thing on the front. And this is very self-consciously designed by Geiger to kind of be the unification of a rather unpleasant rendition of human sexual organs. And it can run really fast as well. That's a really scary part. It's just everything scary you could ever possibly imagine rolled into one creature.
The alien, which is a female monster, which is so scary that her victims just disappear. You can't even see a trace of them, like she swallows them up. I suppose it's everything that's scary about women that comes to the forefront in Aliens.
Fire!
In Invasion Earth, there are two types of aliens. The nasty ones are these showers of gold, and the nice ones are like this timid, Bambi-like being.
The aggressor aliens are called the NDs, which was the military code for N-dimensional, multi-dimensional beings. And the good aliens, the ones who alert us of the danger, are called the Echoes, which again was how they were codified militarily as Echo Uniform Oscar, extraterrestrials of unknown origin.
I believe that he is quite apart from the other residents here. And I intend to prove that he has come to us for a very important reason.
And that reason was to warn humanity of the ND's plan. Because the third thing that will definitely happen is that the aliens will try to take us over from the inside. Either by mind control or by impregnating us. Their purpose? To create an alien and human hybrid. One of us will be abducted. We might go willingly, I would. Or that person may be taken from their bed at night and subsequently probed.
The character of Amanda Tucker, the female scientist in Invasion Earth, is abducted by the NDs, and they embark on a biological process to convert her to a hybrid species. So that the idea of us losing our own species identity and becoming something different, that human beings will cease to exist, is played out at the personal level in her story.
To prepare us for the extraterrestrial interbreeding, the aliens have a dastardly plan. To turn the entire human race into women.
It's actually been scientifically noted in reality that sperm counts are declining and that males are becoming subfertile, and this has been put down to various environmental pollutants. But I thought it would be quite interesting if this was part of the ND's plan. And their objective is to make all human beings female and to procreate the species by asexual reproduction.
The way the aliens feminize mankind is by poisoning the water supply with the infected blood of this poor bloke.
The ending of Invasion Earth is bleak, and I wanted it to have a darker quality. The story is not about winning, it's about survival. And what's at stake is the extinction of the species. What the ending means is that we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. Our only way of surviving is to destroy the Earth.
Meanwhile, after suffering her bout of alien tampering, Amanda Tucker has to make a terrible decision.
Rather than allow herself to become the first hybrid of the new form, she takes her own life.
Amanda Tucker goes on a date with the alien hive mind, knowing full well that that date won't end with coffee back at its place, but with a nuclear explosion. Next up, we're facing alien invasion and all we've got to protect us is this shower, a public schoolboy, a bastard, and a robot butler. World War II was the last age of great British heroes, and we took the heroism of the Battle of Britain into space with our science fiction. Invasion Earth cleverly sets our first encounter with the extraterrestrials during the Blitz, but we're so busy surviving the attacks of the Nazis that we hardly notice the alien spaceship.
It's a B1! That ain't no B nothing.
But after winning World War II, we celebrated victory with a glorious piece of British science fiction, Dan Dare. Dan Dare was just the RAF in space, written by Frank Hampson for the Eagle comic in 1950. The Eagle was created by Reverend Marcus Morris as a wholesome antidote to the scurrilous American horror comics invading these shores. The Eagle was middle class, respectable, and very Christian, and so was Dan Dare, and that's why I never liked him.
The thing that I always disliked about him, this might sound a bit weird, but was in fact the rosy glow in his cheeks and the little sheen, right? Which I always associated with the posh kids, because they always had this kind of like apple-cheeked, overshaven look of the kind of bourgeois boy, and he really has that. But
Dan Dare was still selling imperialism to the kids, even though after World War II our empire was finished.
Again, I think it was selling to a certain audience. I think it was middle-class boys essentially that were buying this comic. It was a bit more pricey than other comics, things like the Beano.
Heavy inflation, actually. The first one here is threepence.
Yes.
And in just over a year, it's gone up to fourpence halfpenny.
Dan Dare was never my hero. He belonged to an older, posher generation. A writer who shares my dislike for Dan Dare is Grant Morrison. He updated Apple-cheeked Dan for the 90s.
I did Dan Dare in the Voguish style, which was to utterly piss on the flag and destroy the icon. And I ended up with Dan being buggered by the Mekon, which I think was just 1 metre beyond the line. And I had a lot to say about how I felt, about how the myth of Dan Dare, the 50s idea of what 1999 would be like, or 1990 would be like, turned into this like miserable, dull-ridden nightmare. And it was that contrast, Dan Dare stalking through streets where aliens are like shooting weird drugs. And the Dan Dare enthusiasts hated it, obviously, which is like as they might.
But Dan Dare's chucks away fantasy of the RAF in space was hopelessly out of date, and Britain was to play no larger role in the space race other than to hold America's coat while it went to the moon. Even our fictional astronauts were a right shambles, a bunch of disorganised criminal renegades joyriding around the galaxy in a nicked spaceship. In other words, Blake 7. One hero I did relate to was Avon from Blake 7. Not that he was a good guy, quite the opposite. Avon was a cold-hearted, ruthless and sometimes cowardly cad.
This is true. This is the only television program in the world at the time where the hero is, am I allowed to use a rude word, an absolute bastard. And my character was an embezzler on an enormous scale. He'd taken a lot of money out of the Federation and he killed people. The Avon character was more interested in having the backup gun. You know, he was no Mahatma Gandhi.
This is Paul Darrow's gun from Blake 7, which it was sort of battery operated. They all were, and it lit up with the light coming down here. They all used to sort of behave quite semi-ridiculously with them.
And I always wore my gun on the left, so that I had a cross draw. I always thought that was cool, you know.
Blake 7 combined the tale of the Magnificent Seven with a World War II resistance story, a ragbag of heroes battling the superior firepower of the fascists, who dress in identical, slightly masochistic outfits.
The issue of the Federation was taken up, I think, by the Guardian newspaper at the time as being representative of Nazi Germany, which I suppose it could be described as.
The end of Blake 7 is terribly upsetting. Avon kills Blake. He kills Blake because he believes that Blake has been collaborating with their enemies, the evil Nazi-style Federation. The scene is tragic, moving, and bitterly cruel.
It was an interesting feeling in the studio because obviously it had been going on for a long time.
And I said, who's going to kill him? And somebody said, well, we haven't decided yet, but I suppose the Federation. And I said, well, why don't I do it? They said, yeah, okay. So, seems reasonable that you'd shoot the only friend you had in the universe.
Avon, I was waiting for you.
But the death of Blake is only the prelude to the most tragic scene in the history of British science fiction. After I saw it, I went up to my bedroom and wept. Get the hankies out. It's the massacre of Blake 7. After the trauma of seeing my heroes die, I searched around for an alternative, and so I became part of the Star Wars generation.
Blake 7 is famous for its challenging special effects. By a strange coincidence, it was first shown on British TV the same night that Star Wars premiered at the West End. By an even stranger coincidence, I was 7 years old, and my brother nicknamed me Blake.
First time I saw Star Wars was when it came out in 1977, and the hype that had surrounded it was absolutely unimaginable. And I did feel extremely excited and kind of quite privileged to watch it. And yet I also did get a sense that this was the start of a new style of science fiction.
Star Wars was partly filmed in Britain and is littered with great British actors, from Alec Guinness to Dave Prowse. The most obvious British bit in Star Wars is Anthony Daniels' career-defining performance as C-3PO.
He's got something of the Doctor Who-ness about him. He's incredibly British. He's certainly that kind of wayward butler figure, if you like. Somebody who's scared, who's the absolute opposite of the swashbuckling hero figure.
I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations, and this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
C-3PO's programmers decided to give him this kind of camp conversational software, and I think it's probably so that men and women wouldn't feel threatened by him. I mean, he does speak about 3 billion languages, and You know, if he was kind of arrogant and, you know, macho, he might be a bit of a threatening figure. So I think actually the robot programmers that programmed him actually had the right idea by making him camp, because everybody likes camp people.
Anthony Daniels' very British performance was originally going to be cut, but George Lucas was so amazed by it he left it in.
But he was big enough to change his mind. He never thought of doing it this way. You know, posh British butler. But again, we have this like schism between American English, you see. And, you know, had 3PO been an evil bastard, then probably it would have been fine. You know, it's terrific he sounds English because he's real evil.
C-3PO's partner was R2-D2, a droid that would bleep comically at appropriate moments. Sometimes actor Kenny Baker would be inside R2-D2, but most of the time on set, it was just an empty, silent box that Anthony Daniels had to act against.
It was kind of lonely, frankly, and especially given that my counterpart, my best friend, my buddy, was a box on wheels, and the wheels used to get clogged with sand. The wheels never moved anywhere. We dragged him on piano wire, on skis, on sleds. We went mad with R2. And the biggest crime, possibly, to my soul was that it never spoke to me. The prop never spoke. I would have one-way conversations. It was, again, the way that madness lies. Where are you going? Well, what makes you think there are settlements over there? But that way's much too rocky. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, etc., etc. Not a hint, not a bleep, a burble, anything.
And he also is prone to slight malfunction as well, which also makes him a peculiarly British kind of robot. It's kind of a British Leyland robot.
So Dan Dare ends up on his hands and knees, taking it up the Gary from the Mekon. Blake Seven are dead, and in each of the Star Wars films, C-3PO waves the flag for all that is weak and camp about the British. Whatever happened to our heroes? Next week, the final programme of SF UK. We take a space odyssey into the future of British science fiction with cybernetic sex, countercultural superheroes, and the giant floating head of John Lennon.
The book to accompany this series, SF UK, is out now, priced £12.95. You can order your copy directly with free delivery by calling the Channel 4 shop on 0870 1234 344 or click onto channel4.com/shop.